Merry Christmas.
It's not Christmas yet. My birthday's coming up.
Happy birthday.
Happy Sagittarius season.
And Jupiter's in Capricorn.
It is. We're getting very Spirit Path podcast.
Happy Jupiter in Capricorn.
On this
if you're
day.
Cancer, it's good news.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, cardinal signs. All right. This is political. Let's put our political hats on. We're back, despite all the wonderful comments.
I honestly haven't read.
I haven't. I haven't either.
Though.
Yeah.
I thought it was entertaining.
We heard about them.
I hope you're enjoying them. Whoever's leaving them. Seriously, I live in the comments on a lot of things, but on this I haven't. So
yeah, knock your socks off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my friends from college, she sent me a message and she's like, "Hey," she encouraged us to start doing these videos, and she was just like, "Hey, I read the comments, and I just if you guys don't want to do this anymore, I understand, and people can be so mean." I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't think they're that bad.
It's YouTube. It is YouTube.
I'm sure they're great. I think it's really nice people saying, "I love this. Keep going."
Yeah.
That's what
That's what she said. She's like, "If you don't want to do this anymore, I understand. But I really enjoy the videos." So anyway, we're not reading the comments, at least as of right now. And apparently it's a good thing. It's good because it's about engagement and everything else. So whatever. I even caught a guy that was one of my Facebook friends trying to leave a little, snarky, sarcastic message.
There's power in the keyboard. So thy voice shall be heard in the keyboard.
Anyway, so today's video is about
MSNBC.
The darling of progressives and liberals everywhere. The antidotes to Fox News. It's MSNBC. It's the place you go when you hate CNN and you hate Fox News. And that's the home for a lot of people. So we've had a very interesting, I was telling Kimi today, we were talking, preparing for this video. And first off, can we just give a moment of silence for the Kamala Harris campaign? And I'm just glad we never had to do a Kamala Harris campaign video. I didn't want to do it. I didn't, but it was on the list. So I'm just thankful we didn't have to do it. So best of luck, bright future.
I did like her Dosha video with Mindy Kaling.
Dosha or Dosa?
Sorry. Dosa.
The Dosha video would have been very interesting.
A Dosha video would have been dope.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dosa was good, but Dosha would have been like next level. Like
I would
have been like, dang, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something.
So, Okay, so MSNBC, I was just telling Kimi that, I've had a long relationship with this network. I remember back in 2008, before I really got on the ground to do anything, in person with Obama, I was part of decades ago, back in, so before I started volunteering and before I got on staff and all that for the Obama 2008 campaign, I was pulled into the online campaigning. So this was in 2008. It was before Twitter, before Instagram, before Snapchat, all of those things. And I was part of what was called the Obama Rapid Response Group. So it was a very insidery online group of us. And we would, chat online about things, what was happening on the ground, stories we thought people should be talking about. And we would do these rapid fire, the kind of days of action where we would all contact Meet the Press, or we would all contact, George Stephanopoulos, the Sunday shows, and we would hit him with talking points that we wanted to talk about. It even got to the point where when I did start to, volunteer on the ground, and everything, I would run into people from the Obama campaign, people who worked on staff. This is in Chicago. So they would work on staff and they were part of the Chicago headquarters, and I would be telling them like, hey, yeah, we got this thing going where we sent all this information to meet the press, and they're going to be talking about what we want to talk about, online. And this one guy was like, whoa, do you think, does anybody from like the campaign know about this? And, but it was really rogue. And so all that to say is I remember I sent emails to, I can't think of the guy's name. I'll have to go and find it. He's like the CEO of MSNBC, I think right now, or he has been in the last few years. I want to say maybe it's Jeff something. I don't know. But Phil something. Anyway, Phil Griffin, I think is his name actually, Phil Griffin. But anyway, he emailed me back, one time about something. It was like when the whole Reverend Wright thing was going on. Chuck Todd, he was like, this is fair game, because I was, talking about stuff that I didn't think, the media. So anyway, it's been this like thing with MSNBC, at least for me, through the years. So let's just talk about, because we're writing our notes and everything. We want to talk about the whole about, because, Kimi, like, well, you don't know, but like Kimi has, she has a background just in like print journalism and, specifically around the art. You did. She wrote for a while for I did. A newspaper in Minnesota, Arts and Culture.
College newspaper.
No, but that one guy. That was Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. She wrote in Wisconsin. So she has bylines, everyone.
I have a byline.
So let's just talk a little bit first about liberals do not like you talking about MSNBC. I learned that the hard way. A day or two ago, I posted this, I guess, I don't know if it's a meme or whatever you want to call it. And it was something like, Dear Liberals, MSNBC, it's my cats. MSNBC. Oh, somebody is trying to get attention around here.
She's like, I got something to say about MSNBC.
Oh my gosh. So I posted on my Facebook and I was just like, Dear Liberals, MSNBC is not your friend. They want a second 45 term. Take them with a grain of salt. I think that's pretty,
Well, we know some good people there.
Of course. We're going to get to that. People want bananas. Some people... I
saw that trending on Twitter. Now, talk about a keyword, though.
What? MSNBC?
No, Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter ain't no joke,
I
dip my toe in Twitter, but not too much. So anyway, let's just take it from the top. So this idea that MSNBC is the liberal gospel, like this is the gospel of the liberals, come on. It's a business. There's ratings. Trump is a media mogul, as far as like, his interactions with the media. He knows how to play the media. It's sports news.
And sports news. I learned that.
Yeah.
That the news is like sports.
Yes.
For news.
Right. So if you think about sports, it's who's up, who's down.
And it's the same layout.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
It's the same layout. Like big face, bright colors, the two pundits. It's like literally.
The big screens behind you.
Same layout.
The CNN like breaking it, all that stuff.
So it's got to be a competition by nature.
Yeah.
And that's just good reporting.
Yeah.
That's stuff that people are going to be interested in.
Mm-hmm. And then, when you think about, when you think about people who work on some of these stations, like Kimi was saying, there are great journalists, and we're going to talk about that. But, there are people who are making, they're doing their little side hustles, through this. So, some journalists, they might be, in integrity and the reporting, this and that. But at the same time, it benefits them when Trump is president and they can write a book, based on the Trump presidency. Like, that's going to be more, salacious and exciting and hardcore journalism because there's so much drama and chaos to report on. That is going to be, more of an appeal, for people to read that and for publishers to be interested in that than maybe a more stable, normal presidency.
And I feel like, too, when it comes to Trump, people like, they like ideas versus what's really happening. How, like, we went to those events and saw things for ourselves and we're like, oh,
yeah,
it's different than how people, things are being imagined on television. Like, oh, it's a bunch of hicks cleaning their teeth with sticks. And literally, someone said that. And I'm like, no, like, your uncle's in there, man. You know, like, it's just, the fact is, it's just different, you know? So I feel like so many people were, like, so traumatized with Trump and everything that then writers kind of seized on that and then could write books and embellish and kind of create a catharsis for those people. I get it. It's commerce, baby.
Yeah, and then I had this moment where, you know, like in the Facebook timeline, it'll say like, okay, like here's a Facebook memory from 5 years ago or something. So Roland S. Martin, who is
Uncle Ro.
Uncle Ro. We had a chance to meet him during the debate. It was really fun. I really like Uncle Ro.
I mean, some things are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with everything Uncle Ro says, but I do agree with many things. And he is a real journalist. And I knew Uncle Ro now.
Respect.
Want to go back. I had to tell him this. I was like, I knew Uncle Ro back in Chicago.
Oh, in the 90s. So many cute pleasure principle.
Pleasure principle. I used to love that song.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Principle of pleasure. I don't want to say you laugh so hard.
Shout out to Uncle Ro, though.
Uncle Ro.
He's so tech savvy.
Yeah. Anyway, he's so funny. I just gotta tell the story real quick. So we're like moving through the debate, you know, after the debate was over in Atlanta, and we see Roland. We knew we wanted a photo with Roland, and I was like, Uncle Ro. He's like, you know, and I was like, hey. He's like, hey, hey, how are you? You know, everything.
Hi,
and I was like, hey, you know, and I told him, which I was gonna say, I knew him back in Chicago when he was on WVON radio, AM radio, okay? Cliff Kelly's show. If you're from Chicago, you know exactly what this is.
Chicago.
The
proper pronunciation.
By Kanye West.
By Kanye.
And Roland also wrote for the Chicago Defender, which is like one of the oldest black newspapers from like Harriet Tubman days. I'm kidding. It's not that old.
Harriet Tubman wrote for Chicago.
It's not that old.
Maybe. If there was what she might have.
It's around like, don't quote me, but maybe around like Juneteenth original, you know, like around that time, I feel like maybe.
Yeah.
But it's an old black Chicago newspaper. So Ro came up from Texas, and he was, you know, that's how I knew him. And this was like 15, 20 years ago, okay? And he's always been tech savvy. So it was so funny because I was like, hey, can we take a selfie? He's like, all right. And so he's all ready, you know. And so
hands are
I'm all like,
a little greasy ass phone.
You know what? That was so mean.
I mean, everybody's phone gets dirty. Everybody's phone does. Come on, don't front.
Yeah. So mine was all like, when he's trying to take the photo's like all cloudy. He's like, Let me get my phone.
Crystal clear.
Hold on. Let me get my phone.
Let me get my phone.
And then he like go reaching in.
He like just took a wet wipe to it.
Yeah, he's like
just took a wet wipe to it 5 minutes ago.
Like, and we like get in. We're like, we take the one. He's like, open your AirDrop. And I was like, oh my god. And I open my AirDrop. He's like, okay, who are you? And I was like, okay. And then I like, you know, put my name and everything. He's like, shh. And it went through.
Too cool.
This is some kind of like throwback themed show I don't know about. I want to be in on it.
Mm-hmm. It's all happening in here, baby.
Okay, so what were we talking about? Okay.
What he said about
this is the shout out to the commenter who I think is one of my new Facebook friends. He's like, I can't follow you guys. I'm like, get over it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting being paid.
Don't follow.
No, unless you want to drop like $20 in the PayPal somewhere.
I'm still just gonna be.
I might care.
I won't.
Probably not.
Yeah.
This is just for fun.
That takes the fun away.
Yeah, we're just talking and shooting the shit, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So on Facebook, there was a memory that came up, and it was like 4 years ago or something, and it was like a week, you know, like maybe a few days after the election, and Roland S. Martin, you know, had written his like Facebook post. He was like, and it came up like a week ago, and it was just like, yeah, don't think that there aren't media execs who are happy, you know, about this Trump election. And I was kind of like, okay. So it was just so funny because we were going to do this show. And then like this memory comes up, you know, where Roland was saying that. And Roland is like a legit journalist, you know, like he knows his facts.
Yeah, he does.
He ain't no joke. You know what I mean?
Facts. That's
and then, yeah, and he doesn't really play those games. I even think he used to be like a Republican or something at one point. But he doesn't really play those games. I don't believe it, or I don't agree with everything he says, but he is like a legit old school journalist. Which we need now.
And I respect that. And
then Les Munoz, whatever. I don't know this man's name. I don't really know this man. But
Julie
the lady...
Chen's husband.
Yeah, from Big Brother and formerly The Talk, her husband. He was like the owner or something of CBS, the network. And he said, you know, it was like the same thing. Like several years ago, he said the same thing where he was like, yeah, Trump's not good for the country, but he's good for business, you know? So our point is like, don't think that MSNBC does not have a stake in the game.
It's still a business.
Yeah.
And their business is television, entertainment.
And there's this thing happening now where, like back in the day when we were growing up, you didn't have cable news, you know?
Oh my God.
You didn't have cable news.
I remember when that.
It was like, you know.
That's right, I'm 54.
No.
I will be one day.
Yeah, but it was like, you know, like Tom Brokaw and, you know, like, you know, older journalists like that.
News came on like for an hour or two.
Like, yeah, right, like twice a day or something. Maybe 3 times a day.
Yeah,
maybe
like 3 times a day.
6.
In the morning,
5 and 9 or 10 or something, you know, something like that.
Right.
But now with cable news, it's like a constant going, so you have to fill that space.
And I feel like it started when Britney Spears shaved her head, no lie.
Yeah. No, that was a pivotal
That was
point.
like a moment where that started showing up on news shows and people were like, why is this even on? Like, this isn't news, but it is now.
Right. Exactly. And so then it's like, you know, with social media coming in, now what ends up happening is that like journalists and networks, because they're just like fishing for stories and news and, you know, social media is so like reactive and it's immediate and you can get a pulse on some things. They go to like Twitter and then whatever Twitter's talking about, they're regurgitating that like it's news.
Twitter crazy.
Yeah. And there's only like, you know, of course there's millions of people on Twitter, but everyone's not on Twitter. No. You know what I mean? Like my mom's not on Twitter, you know?
I mean, I'm on there, but I don't talk.
Yeah, I'm occasionally on there and just kind of more as of recent or something. But the Twitter world is so loud that then these journalists like pick up these stories and pick up this stuff. Yeah. And then unfortunately, I'm going to say too, what I believe and I heard with like Kamala Harris's campaign is that, you know, a lot of these young people, you know, out on the left coast in California, they were so like, some people on her staff higher up, like they were so obsessed and like in on this Twitter world, and it's not a real world. You know what I mean? It wasn't what was happening on the ground. So, you know, you got to kind of be careful of that. But what's interesting is like these journalists are taking these things from Twitter and then trying to make them into a story, you know, or they go to Twitter and try to plant these, you know, ideas and people just start regurgitating them. And
I believe the idea behind that is, these are real ideas in the consciousness, whether or not they're valid but you know, somebody's thinking that and putting it out there. And someone could pick it up because people love sound bites. Yeah,
they do. Yeah. So we had this interesting experience. Should I go into that?
Yeah.
So an interesting experience where I had this it was 2 experiences this past year where both of us were on MSNBC one point, and then a second point I was on MSNBC for a panel. Should we talk about the first or second one?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. So I'll talk about the most recent one.
Yeah.
So I was on this panel with Black conservatives for Trump. It was when Trump came to visit Atlanta.
Yeah, he's building his Black Voter Coalition.
Yeah. And so I was on and another guy was on. You know, we were like representing the Democrats and everything.
Shout out to Matt.
Yes, Matt. We met at the studio. And yeah, it was an interesting experience. I don't want to focus so much on the Trump people, but what was interesting is I knew that I knew that you just never know what's going to happen with this footage. You know, it was an hour-long conversation, but it was like boiled down to like less than 5 minutes. You know, and you just never know how they're going to use it, how they're going to use your image. You're kind of taking a gamble, and stuff like that. But, I went ahead and did it. But I did notice that, with the editing that they did, they cut out like a lot of pro-Biden things I was saying, or, information or questions that were being asked or whatever. All of that was cut out, which I think is interesting. And
really they kind of had it where it was like, we talked to some pro-Trump supporters, and it was just like everybody, and they didn't really distinguish who was what. So it looked like Robin sat there like, oh, well, the Trump supporters.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like the way
I was there. It was like an hour-long recording.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's like the way they use the footage is very interesting too, because like I knew that, they kind of said, okay, it's going to be on at like 2:00 tomorrow or something, so I'm like telling my mom so she can DVR it and stuff like that. But then it's kind of like they'll, like my mom, the next day, I'm thinking it's not coming on until 2:00. And then my mom was like, oh my God, they showed a little clip of it at 10 a.m. So it might be like a little clip here. And then they might just like use a video online on the the NBC website. Then there might be another clip that's on the MSNBC website. And then they might like spill over, a clip on a show that comes on at like 5 p.m. So it was really, kind of hard to find out like where certain things are. But I do know like one time they used a photo and a video where it was like Black Trump supporters in Atlanta. And like Kimi said, and then it was just like all 4 of us when really it was only 2 of us. So I'm like, okay, but I'm not like shocked. I mean, it's me. Like I said, I have
2 of you who were not.
Yeah, 2 of us weren't Trump supporters, and 2 were, but it looked like all 4 of us, But hey, I know they can use your image, however they want. So it wasn't even so much the actual interview, but it was kind of like what happened afterwards. So after the interview, we broke bread with some of the producers, and where to begin? Or where would you begin?
With the bread breaking?
Yeah. Without using names.
Yeah, well, it was weird. I'm like, why did I say it? It was kind of weird when it was just like a vibe.
Yeah.
So it's 3 people. One was cool.
Mm-hmm.
One was all right, and one was not.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do our best here, because there's some ongoing relationships. Okay, so, and I want to honor those, because not everybody is shady, and that's like, I'm not saying everyone is shady on MSNBC, but I'm saying like it is a job, and the networks, like the bosses and the people, who they're looking at that bottom line and money, and Trump gives it to them, So I feel like you might have people who are willing to play that game, and they're like, they don't care, seriously, because they're like, hey, I want to make sure my pockets are lined, or I'm, doing okay. Then there are people who I feel like don't really want to play that game, but they got to play along enough to keep their jobs. Then I feel like there's people who are like kind of pawns, and they don't really even totally get like that they're being used, That's my take on it. So,
and then I feel like there's some people who just use power.
Yes.
Yeah. Use power positions really in any field.
Absolutely.
Just news, but just the power of their station to either intimidate or influence or,
belittle. And all skin folk ain't kin folk. Okay? So we went out to dinner, and we were just, open and, just kind of like, okay, and they were happy with the segment and everything. So one of the people, I don't even know how we got started. Feel free to hop in. I don't even know how we got started, but we were just like, I guess we were probably talking about like, obviously the conservative Trump people first, but then even that, like once we kind of talked and debriefed about that was kind of out the way. Then one of the producers, she was like, so, she asked me, she's like, so do you work for Biden? And I was kind of like, oh, yeah. Oh, whoop, you know? And it was hot in here. No, I was just like, no, I don't. I was like, yeah, I worked for the Obama campaign. I worked. I know. I worked, for like afterwards, on part of his organization for healthcare. And I just said, no. I said,
I'm a concerned voter.
Yeah, I am. And I was just like, no.
Informed.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was just like, no, I was like, I'm into politics. I've grown up, I'm a concerned voter. I research, I read a lot, everything. And so she's kind of like, like not believing me. Because of course you're probably like, because you're black, you're an uninformed black voter who only likes Biden because of Obama, that whole narrative that's going on.
You were blacked into it.
Yeah, and she's like, so then I don't know what they asked me, but I'm at this point, like, diarrhea of the mouth, because I have researched a lot. And I'm like, this candidate ain't gonna happen. This candidate ain't gonna happen, and I'm like, and this is why, and everything. And it's like less about policy, but it's about culture and people and familiarity and all these things. And it was like, they did not want to listen, particularly this one producer. It's like, she just did not want to accept like what I was saying. So then, she was like, well, and she said something about, Biden and it was just not true. Like, it was like these like tired narratives that are being like said, where she's like, oh, he's shaky, and I don't even know like what she was saying. I can't remember but
I just remember when she said Biden's gonna fade.
She's like, no, she's like, Biden's fading.
Yeah,
Biden's fading. Like trying to like Biden's fading.
And she kept asking us questions like, who are you for? Who are you for? What do you think? What's your number one issue? What about you?
Yeah, but
then she would like be like, this side of the table thinks this. And then I was just kind of like, well, what's your thing? Who are you for? And she'd be like, next question, like just wouldn't answer.
I mean, and it was like so obvious, like she was for Harris or Booker. I mean, to be honest,
it was just kind of that weird thing where it's like, let me ask you all these questions, and then I'm gonna sit here and
judge you silently.
And aloud by being like, this side of the table thinks this, and, like I don't know. I'm just like,
and I felt like it's like she would ask these questions, and then it's like when she would not get the answer that she thought she should get, she didn't like it.
And I felt like she was disappointed she was dining with us when she first arrived, even.
I mean, I kind of was disappointed she was there, too.
I was, too.
I thought it would have been probably a lot more fun and candid if she was not there, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, same.
Right.
Oh, same. Right.
Touché, my friend.
Right.
But,
that's
yeah.
Okay. Everybody's gonna like everybody.
But yeah, so I'm like feeding them, not really feeding them stories, but I'm just kind of like, have you guys,
yeah, Robin was like, info.
Yeah, and I was just like, have you guys looked into this whole Medicare for All thing? Like, do you know how many jobs are going to be lost? Like, what are people saying about that in the battleground states? And what about this? And like, I'm just like saying all this stuff, and she's like, but Biden's fading. Biden's fading. I'm like, and it was like she was trying to like convince, and I was like, no, he's not. I was like, no, he's not, and I was like, and then I was like, again, I'm like, have you looked on Twitter and looked at this? Have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? And I was like, he's increasing with these voting blocks, and she didn't want to hear it. And so then, like, after we get through that, then she's like, what about Pete? Pete's surging, like this. And I was like, no, he's not. Like, I just saw Pete like 2 weeks ago, or, like.
Yeah, well, literally.
Yeah, I did.
And 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And they were talking about Pete was surging with black voters in South Carolina.
I was so looking forward to seeing him, honestly, because I didn't think badly of Pete, and I was kind of excited that he was just there and he was smart.
I wasn't against him.
And was going to talk, but I'll tell you who's really smart, Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, man, we got a whole video on Amy K.
I mean, God, I feel like she's so underrated. She's really freaking smart as a whip.
Yeah, Amy K. She'd be like my second choice.
Oh,
if I had a second choice.
Hands down. But Pete can read a speech well.
He can.
Yeah, he's a very good reader.
Excellent. He gets an A.
A good speech reader.
Being an orator, right? Is that the word?
Yeah.
I was open to seeing Pete too, and I'm going to be honest, when I did finally see him in person, it was underwhelming. And apparently the auditorium in South Carolina thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like performing for the cameras because nobody was giving him any energy.
No. And he's like, okay. You know, like, it comes off well, I feel like, on camera.
On TV. And that's who he was performing for. Like, because there was a whole press stand behind, you know, the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of getting a long video. Should we make 2 videos? Do 1 and 2?
All right. We're going to part 2 this.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Uh-oh. To the right. That's Final Cut Pro. Here.
Oh, right.